The risk of status quo is way higher than most people think. I think the best CFOs realize that like there is no equilibrium path that's just like, let's turn the crank and we're good. Like, I think the best CFOs realize that the equilibrium path is death. And I think the bad CFOs think that they understand risk by being like on defense all the time. And I think that that is actually way riskier than people realize.
My name is Will Petrie. I am the CFO at Ramp. I am joined on stage by none other than Ravi Gupta, who is a dear friend of mine and my closest mentor. We worked together for a long time at Instacart way back when. Ravi started his career at McKinsey right here in New York before switching. Chicago, sorry. Details do matter, sorry. He then switched to KKR in New York, where he was an investor for, I think, a decade, close to a decade, before joining Instacart in 2015, where he was the company's first CFO and COO and led the business through its most formative years. I had a front row seat to that. And now he has been at Sequoia Capital for the last 6 years, the venture firm, investing in leading technology businesses like Sierra. This is Brett Taylor's startup that's building AI agents for customer support teams, or Fair, the wholesale marketplace empowering local retailers. And I'm very happy to say also Ramp. Ravi, we are grateful for your support yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And on a more personal note, to the extent that I know anything at all, I learned it from Ravi. And so I'm very happy for him to have the chance to share his wisdom and guidance with this group. You've been an operator, you're an investor now.
Before he gets going, I just want to tell you guys something. Like, all of that was meant just so I don't make fun of Will. It was just like, it was like the long con of like, let me be really nice to him in the intro, and therefore, you know, Ravi will not say anything to embarrass me. And I just want you guys to know it's not going to work. Okay. And so get ready.
So the backstory on this, Ravi came to a Ramp all hands about 6 months ago. I wore a magenta quarter zip. It's a beautiful piece of clothing.
First finance person to ever wear magenta, I think.
I felt pretty good about myself that day. And I made fun of Ravi in my introduction to him. He then decided to give it back to me, and the shirt became, I think, the focal point of the entire conversation we had on stage in front of the entire company. So that influenced my wardrobe choice today. I wore a nice, down the middle blue blazer. Thank you, Ravi, for teaching me well.
A sensible blue blazer, yeah.
Ravi, thanks for being here.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Ravi, you and I have talked a ton about the expanding role of the CFO. I would love to hear you start off by describing what you think makes the best CFOs in the world today truly great.
I think that, to me, my impression of CFOs is that there's two types. There's like scorekeepers, they like tell you what's happening. And then there's people that score points. And I think that ultimately, the more that you are somebody who both understands what the score of the game is and accurately tracks that, but also changes the score of the game, I think that's what separates, the great CFOs versus the functional or okay CFOs, right? And I think that more and more and more, I think there are folks out there who do way more than just keep track of what's happening in the business. And I think that is, frankly, less than table stakes for what a great CFO should be. And so I think that, Will, when I think about just an example of this for a moment, the best CFOs, in my opinion, are partners to the CEO in the business on every important decision. The CEO doesn't want to have a meeting without the CFO there, even if it's not directly tied to something financial. That, to me, is sort of like how you can feel it, which is when they have a decision to make, when there is a decision to make in the business, they're like, help me make it. It's not, don't give me the information so I can make it. Like, what do you think? Help me make it. And I think that that's a hard bar, but I think that's what excellence looks like. And there's lots of reasons it doesn't happen. And I think it's vanishingly rare, frankly. But I think, people can do it and they should aspire to do it, in my opinion.
As an investor, you're talking to tons of companies and lots of CFOs. How do you determine which archetype you're talking to?
The first thing is sort of, does the CFO talk in the investor meeting at all, right? There are some CFOs that seem to be there just in case of disaster or something. That's not great, right? That does not suggest that the person is an integral partner in the business. I would say, like, again, on a spectrum, the like person that's there only to present one section of the financials and like 2 pages and has 17 pages of notes behind that they read to you and look up like this when they're presenting it. Again, doesn't seem like they're like really in it. And it's not about the presentation. It's sort of like, are they in the conversation? Are they adding to it? Are they contributing? I think those are some things. And I guess, Will, the thing that I think maybe is the bigger thing, because I want this to feel like optimistic, is I basically think that the best CFOs, the ones that I am enthusiastic to talk to, realize that the risk of status quo is way higher than most people think. I basically think that's the issue. I think the best CFOs realize that like there is no equilibrium path that's just like, let's turn the crank and we're good. Like, I think the best CFOs realize that the equilibrium path is death, that it's not going to work. And either take a high growth startup that's losing money. It's like, look, something has to change for you to become a valuable business. And you better realize that you're default dead if you don't change something, right? In your business model, in your growth rate, in something. And then the stable business actually has the same problem, which is that if you don't figure out how to become a growth business again, you're dead. Someone's going to come eat your lunch. And I think that the best CFOs, they're just they properly understand risk. And I think the bad CFOs think that they understand risk by being like on defense all the time. And I think that is actually way riskier than people realize. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I think.
As you reflect on your Instacart experience as the CFO and COO and true partner in the business, what are the things that you thought you did really well, and what would you wish you'd done differently?
Tons of stuff I wish I'd done differently. I sound like I'm like, oh, I know what I'm talking about. Like I made more mistakes than anybody. I think part of the reason that I feel confident to share some of this with you guys is because of the size and scope of the mistakes that I made. So I'll just give you an example just for a moment. Or do you want to go through the mistakes that I made instead?
No, please. Yeah. Your words are better than mine. Go for it.
Just to give you some level set, because I think you can imagine like feeling like you're alone in something you don't understand, right? I went and worked for a tech company. I'd never worked at a tech company before. I didn't know anything about tech companies. So I go to Instacart. Number one, I didn't know what an API was. I did not know what API stood for. And like I tell you that, and like it's not like you can just Google it and figure it out, right? Someone has to explain to you how it works. But people would be like, "Oh yeah, well, do you think that maybe we'll just use our API for that?" And I'm kind of like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so I want you to know that like your whatever level of novice you are on any topic you have, I promise you I was lower. Okay, and in an all hands one time, I was like, hey, just to demonstrate what I hope we will all do, can someone please explain to me what an API is? I was up here, okay? And so like, maybe that was a mistake, but what I can tell you is like, don't be afraid if you don't know something. So one thing was like, I didn't prepare enough for the job. I didn't even know something like that. The first time Apurva, our CEO, suggested that we hire a VP of product, I literally was like, well, what would that person do? And he was like, well, they would like, and he like looked at me like I was an idiot, of course. And he was like, well, they would like help determine a bunch of the experiences that a customer would have when they come to like Instacart.com or when they download our app. And I literally was like, isn't that what you do? Dead serious. So anyway, again, like level of novice, like you got it. Okay, some mistakes that I made. I don't think I spent nearly enough time with our customers. I think that I was focused on the metrics. I was focused on our internal people. I was focused on our grocers, but I didn't spend enough time with end customers, okay, at all. And that was not because of my role. It was because I was lazy. It was because it was inefficient. I wish I had spent way more time with customers. So that was one thing. And we made mistakes, huge mistakes as a result of that. I didn't spend enough time with our grocers. I told you I did, but I didn't actually. I didn't spend enough time with our grocers either. And our grocers would have ideas that would matter to our end customers that I ignored because I was like, oh, it's in their interest. It's not ours. So that's another set of mistakes. A couple of things I think I did okay. I think that I was able to sometimes translate our mission, like what are we here for, into like metrics. And then I think I was pretty good at being focused on like, okay, cool, there's 5 things that we have to work on. Actually, there's only 1. We're just not going to get to numbers 2 through 5 unless we finish number 1. And I think I was good at that. And then I think that I was good at thinking for myself. And maybe that is like, if I could leave you with one thing, it would be that, which is no one's going to tell you the answer. Like no one gets to tell you what the answer is for your business. You have to take in information and you decide. And I think I was good at like being independent in my thought as to like, what should we do? And I can tell you that when we make mistakes, the big lesson is that you can bounce back from any mistake other than a mistake of integrity. And so like the cost of a mistake is much lower than you think. And so one thing I think we were good at is I think we were trying things. And by the way, like we would change stuff, and people, Will wouldn't do this, but like people on the team would be like, oh my gosh, we change all the time. There's thrash. Thrash to me is the worst word that people in startups use. It's just like they want it to be like a certain boat ride that's like, really smooth. And it's like, why would you come work here if you thought that's what it was going to be like? But anyway, but all the time, oh, we have so much thrash. We have so much thrash. But like, that was because we would try things and we would be wrong and then we would fix it. What are we going to do? We're going to keep it, the same way. So I think I was good at that. So I hope that's like a balanced mix. What do you think?
I think that's a pretty honest assessment.
Okay,
I think you should have spent more time with customers. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I also agree. I mean, I think in these types of environments, thrash in many ways is a strength. It means the business is reading and reacting and internalizing new data all the time and rethinking prior decisions that may not work anymore. So thank you for sharing that. What is the single biggest thing that you miss about operating now that you're on the investing side? And maybe for this audience, this is a group of finance leaders. What do we take for granted about our current roles that you no longer have?
I mean, let me start by saying like my job is much easier than yours. Okay. So like, your job is way harder. And I really mean that. You're like responsible for the outcome of a business. You're responsible for a series of difficult people decisions. You're responsible for if something goes wrong, it's on you. I'd presume many of you feel very lonely at different points about like the level of responsibility you have and certain things that only you know and other people don't even seem to care about, but they're really important. Somebody once told me that I wasn't a real CFO because I didn't wake up in the middle of the night multiple times a week, worrying about like the financials being accurate. And I was like, oh, okay. But anyway, your job is like much, much, much harder than mine. With all of that having been said, how many people in here have children? Awesome. Is your life better or worse than before you had children? Somebody can answer. I hope someone's saying better. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The point of the story is that it's supposed to be better. If it's not, like, sorry. But I guarantee you it's harder also, right? There's like way more stuff to do, but it's also more fulfilling. And there's just, you get out what you put in. And I would say that in many jobs, like you sort of oscillate between like a 4 and a 7 every day. And in your job, I'd suspect you oscillate between like a -10 and a 12. And I think that's analogous to having children, or if your family having children, which is that before them, there was probably a tighter range of your emotions. And now there's this crazy range, but the good is so good. And so what I would tell you, the thing I miss is I miss the range that you guys get to feel. I miss the team. And I would tell you that I'm envious of like the in it level that you guys get to have, like the in the arena aspect of like you're doing it. And in my heart, I believe this is the most interesting time in technology that I've ever seen. And it's not even close. And I think the idea of getting to be able to play in this time and be accountable and be relied upon and to to make the hard decisions, and I think is something that you will look back on and feel like it was awesome. And it's like a race worth running. And so I think that I would suspect you don't worry if you're running a race worth running. I bet you realize you are running a race worth running. And so that's something that I am very envious of all of you for. I miss that about operating. I also, Will said all these nice things about me, and he probably presumes there'll be some level of reciprocity to him, which he's sorely mistaken. But if you earmuff for a second, like getting to work with people that you love and respect and trust and, who turn out to be much better than you is like, what an amazing treat. And we text most days, and we talk about real things, and the relationship is so far beyond what it was, however many years ago. And I think that, those things come through earning it. It comes through doing hard things side by side and seeing people grow and learning, having people be okay with the way you learn, and learning with them. And so those are some things that I think you only get through the work that you guys get to have in your role.
You mentioned the amazing era that we get to play in. I want to get to that in a second, but you also referenced just the highs and lows of the finance leadership job inside of fast-moving companies. This group is shouldering a lot. Yep. We have a ton of responsibility. We actually do have to make sure that our financials are accurate, whether or not you thought about that. I'm curious.
Hey, we're public, okay, and accurate. Remember. Not Sequoia, Instacart.
For your bad days when you were operating, What did they look like, and how did you moderate through them?
Okay, now in this one, I actually think I have a unique answer, and I think I'm right. And so I want to tell you guys about it because it's different than a lot of other people's bad days. Is that okay? Okay. My bad days were when I thought we were going to lose. They weren't when I thought our financials were inaccurate. They weren't when somebody was going to quit. They were when I thought we were going to lose. That was it. And I think that is the right time to have a bad day because I think that so many people in finance roles, and I'm sorry if this is describing any of the people in this room, but if it is, then you can fix it. But like they just worry about what they're good at and they worry about things that they think they can control rather than things that actually matter. And like, don't do that. Like it doesn't, most of the things that people are busy on don't matter. They do not matter to the outcome of the business. And they spend time at work late and they get stressed and it doesn't even matter. It's not even going to determine whether this thing works or not. And they don't spend time on the things that actually matter because they don't know what to do about it. And I'm like, cool, then let's go figure out what to do about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's spend time on that. And so what do I suggest? You got to take a bunch of stuff off your plate. You got to let certain fires burn. Yes, the financials have to be accurate. After that, though, a bunch of stuff that most people spend their time on doesn't matter to the business, and you got to let somebody else take care of it, right? And so I really firmly believe that like one of the things is like let somebody else do so many of the things, either people on your team or other partners, right? Like part of the reason I like Ramp is I actually believe you can like take a bunch of stuff off of somebody's plate. And an increasing amount off of somebody's plate. And it's not about Ramp. It's just in general. Find some way to take a bunch of stuff off your plate and care less about certain things. They are not all created equal. I promise you that. So my bad days would be when I thought we were going to lose. And when on that, when I was like, I didn't do enough to help us win. And that's why it's like good to be in a business because it's like, okay, cool. What am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? What am I going to do to go learn about it? And I think that that's the part where like, it's so rewarding to just get better. This is why I tell you I didn't know what an API was. This is why I tell you I didn't know what a VP product was, because like now I do. And the only way is by asking and by doing. And you are so much better than you think you are. And most people don't know the things you think they know. And so like you got to the level you're at, you're so much more capable. Go learn the other stuff. And I can tell you, if you think that your company is falling behind on AI, go be an AI leader in finance. Have a better finance AI stack than the product team. I guarantee you the product team will do better work if they're shamed by the finance team on the level of AI capability. I promise you, right? But what credibility do you have if you don't know what they should do and you don't use it yourself? None. And so you got to get it, right? You got to go and earn that credibility and you got to find ways to earn that credibility. One is through understanding what they do. And the other is through stuff like that, which is like, well, we use AI for this. What do you use it for? Well, that doesn't seem great that the product team is, further behind in AI than the finance team. Like, let's go. And so those are some things that come to mind for me. But I really think that like you are who you've been waiting for. Like you can learn so much more than you think. If this is the moment, if you have high agency and you have half a brain, you can learn anything you want. I promise you. The other day, everyone in Silicon Valley is always talking about how we turn sand into intelligence. I'm like notionally supposed to understand that because I work at a venture capital firm, right? And I was like, I do not understand what all these people are saying when they say, what are they talking about? And I'm not supposed to swear today, but like, what the F are they talking about? Like turning sand into intelligence. You know what? I learned what that meant. And the first time I read it, I didn't understand any of it. And I was like, please explain this to me like an 8th grader. Still didn't understand it. Okay, let's try 5th grader, okay? And then it did. And I was like, oh, I got it. And then I was like, now make it 3 times as detailed. And I promise you, this thing that had sort of made me a little uncomfortable every time I'd heard it for months, now I kind of get it. And you could do the same thing. You can do so much more than you think you can. So.
In my introduction of Ravi, I forgot to mention some of the other activities that he is currently pursuing. He is a prolific podcaster.
That is not true.
He has founded a podcast called The Glue Guys with Shane Battier and Alex Smith. If any of you are basketball or football fans, you will know who they are. You should check out The Glue Guys podcast. He's also a big-time blogger, rkg.blog. He, every few months, drops a new pearl of wisdom. One of my favorite blog posts, and I think this has made the rounds inside of companies recently, is called AI or Die. And you mention the transformative power of AI inside of companies. If you were operating today, how can we go be the AI leaders that you think we can be?
AI or die. I guess I'd say the first thing is, I think that many people treat AI as if it is like something they have to use. Okay, and not something that they could use for something important. And so the analogy I use just before I tell you what I would try to do and what I am trying to do is I think many people use AI and leaders use AI. They treat it like it's like a nepotism hire that they had to make. Okay, like some board member's nephew that you had to hire. And in this scenario, this board member's nephew sucks. And you give this board member's nephew a mediocre piece of work that doesn't mean anything. And the first time there's an error, you're like, I knew it. I knew they were an idiot. I'm never going to give them anything of substance again. Okay, that's the way most people treat AI. And I would encourage you instead of, and by the way, like the point is like, I knew they were dumb. I knew that they didn't have it. I would encourage you instead to think about it as like a genius hire that you begged to come work at your company for like 6 years. Okay. And finally they came. And now you gave them an assignment and the first time they mess up, it's not like, oh, I knew they were an idiot. It's like, what did I not do to prep them to do a good job on this? I know they're smart. I must have made a mistake. So the first thing is like, when AI doesn't do what you want it to do, take accountability for it. You didn't give it enough context to do it. These things are smart. They win math competitions, like from like really against really smart people. Okay. Like the AI is smart. The conclusion of like the AI is dumb is the wrong conclusion. So you got to feel like you got to give it real work to try and help you on. And then you have to understand why it didn't work. And so the real reason AI doesn't work sometimes to like take a task is because it's like 10 times better than the median human in some things. And it's like 10 times worse than the median human in other things. And our jobs are designed for humans, right? And so like we said, it can win a math competition, but it also can't work for more than 15 minutes unattended. Well, that's really weird. So it's going to be very hard for you to just give it something and like go away. But I promise you there are things that can help you on. If the CEO you work with ever asks you for anything you guys should do in corporate development, GPT-5 is amazing as a corporate development analyst for you if you are willing to give it enough context on your business. It is amazing. I'm telling you, for businesses I have studied for years, it gives me ideas of what they should be doing that I have never thought about. And just to make this real, I was at a dinner with a founder of a public company the other day. He was the chairman of their board. And I was not prepared for this dinner. And I asked GPT-5, can you please give me some ideas of what this company should buy? Now, mind you, I don't know what this company should buy. Okay, I can't even properly evaluate it. And I was like, I want to leverage their data advantage and their distribution advantage. And here's the amount of risk I'm willing to take. It gives me 2 ideas. I was like, can you give me some more bold ideas? It's like, great, gives me 2 more. So 20 minutes into the dinner, because I'm an idiot, I suggested to the guy, I'm like, have you guys been acquisitive enough? Now, mind you, that is irresponsible. I don't know, okay? But I'm going to try it. And he's like, I don't know. What do you have in mind? And he's testing me. So I give him one of the ideas, the not so bold one. And he's like, oh yeah, we think about that, but here's the reason we can't do it. Okay, cool. He's like, what else you got? So then I give him the bold one. And the guy, I promise you, he leans back in his chair and he goes like this. He's like, oh my God. He's like, me and my co-founder have been talking about that for the last 6 months. He's like, and we cannot stop thinking about it. And I'm like, oh my God, it worked, right? Now, and then we had a great conversation where I actually was helpful to him. I was like, what do you mean you guys have been talking for the last 6 months? Like, here's how you can go do it. And I actually am useful at that. But that was a new idea, right? From AI that helped me on something that mattered, high stakes. And all it took was me asking it, giving it some context. And all of you can do that. And if I was in a company right now, I would be doing that. And I do it right now for the job I'm in, right? I do it. I ask it questions all the time and hard questions. And I want to be surprised. And look, half the time it answers it and it tells me something I never could have figured out. And half the time it's mediocre. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm learning. But I ask AI to help me with real work. And I would encourage you to do the same thing. And I would also tell you one other thing. You cannot compare it to perfection. This is the reason, like, self-driving cars are going to save millions of lives. And people will go and be like, well, there was an accident with a self-driving car. It's like, yeah, but there's like 1/100th of how many accidents or lives taken as there are with human drivers. You can't compare a self-driving car to a human that never crashes. You have to compare it to an average human that's like texting or like hitting their kid in the back of the car or like whatever it is. And it's the same thing. When it makes an accounting mistake that you ask it to do, your accountants aren't perfect either, and you have to compare it to reality. So those are things that come to mind for me. And also be optimistic. I promise you, this thing is coming whether you like it or not. You might as well be optimistic about what it can do. And then the other thing I'll tell you, just to give you a little parlor trick, is when someone asks you when AGI is coming, tell them it's already here, okay? It is. If I told you a computer could do what it could do now, 5 years ago, you'd be like, oh, that seems like AGI. There's no way you would not say it's AGI for what it can do right now. But we just insist on changing the definition, and you get to sound smart if someone's like, when do you think AGI was going to come? Like, I think it's already here. So that's a pro tip from me. Scott Wu, the CEO of Cognition, agrees with me, or I agree with him. Yeah.
No, I really agree with that. And I mean, we inside the Ramp finance team are increasingly trying to push the envelope on what AI can do. We're trying to make the product team, I see Carl sitting here, look bad and feel bad about all the ways we're outstripping them. I don't think we're there yet, but I'll give you an example to this point about, AI being the genius hire and people needing to treat it that way, and it will amaze you in what you can do. We started monthly hackathons inside the finance team, which is great, borrowed from the engineering team. And we basically sit around and we think about the hairiest, dirtiest, gnarliest workflows inside of our team that have been built up over years and people and time. And we say, okay, how could we reimagine this with an agentic workflow? And then how do we actually go build that such that people on the finance team are actually creating it themselves? They know the workflow best. And so we're very early in this development. The leading thing that we are working to build right now is a deal desk agent. We sign a lot of contracts every month with customers. We get a lot of feedback and back and forth from the sales team. I see some Ramp sales folks in the room. We are building an agent that is connected to Salesforce. It's connected to our economic data so we understand how profitable or not every single customer is. It's connected to the Slack workflow such that the deal desk team, one person, doesn't need to go to 10 over the next 2 years. And by the way, we're going to sign better deals because an AI is going to actually just sort of enforce the policy, to some of the comments that Eric made in the first session earlier today. So we are like starting to really think about all the ways this can unlock efficiency and impact in the business. And we'll report back.
Well, the other thing just related to that, nobody cares if you built the AI yourself or if you use someone else's product, as long as you're actually fluent in what it can do. Do you see what I'm saying? If you have some insight that came from ChatGPT, it's not like people are like, where did you hear that from? It just matters if it's insightful. And it's the same thing if you use a Ramp product or if you use a AI customer support agent or whatever. The only thing you have to do is like actually implement it. It doesn't have to be homegrown. It just has to actually be good.
Love it. All right, switching gears a little bit. One of the most distinctive things about you is that you generate followership wherever you go. People follow you. Can you talk a little bit about your key personal leadership principles? How do you pull that off, and how can we learn from you?
That is a very nice question. Thank you. I really mean that. You're not even going to drop a joke afterwards. I think that there's this great story. I don't know if anybody's into basketball here, but there's this great story from a long time ago when Phil Jackson, who was the coach of the Bulls, if any of you watched the Last Dance documentary, and then he was the coach of the Lakers. And when Kobe Bryant was young on the team, Phil Jackson and he would butt heads a lot. And one summer, Kobe, rest in peace, came to Phil Jackson and said, look, I've been working out all summer. I figured out the problem. I want you to make me a captain. I'm ready to lead. And Phil Jackson has like one of the all-time lines at this time. And he says, but nobody wants to follow you. And I heard that, and I thought that was like the most incredible definition of leadership I'd ever heard. It was so true. What makes you a leader? It's not your title. Right? It's not the amount of money you make. It's not any of that. It's whether people want to follow you or not. Do they follow you into uncertainty? That is the entire definition of leadership, in my opinion. So I think the first thing, Will, is like believing that what makes you a leader is not a title. It's people wanting to come with you. Right? And I really believe that helps, because then it's sort of like, what are you trying to do? You're trying to earn followership. You're trying to be somebody that's worthy of being followed. And what I can tell you there is like, this is all like, maybe not all that sophisticated, but I give most of the credit for anything good that's in my life to my parents or my wife. But like most of the stuff that they taught me, I think you should care more about the people than you do about yourself. Right? And that means when someone who's really good comes to you saying, maybe I want to do something else, your first reaction isn't like, what does this mean for me? Oh God. It's like, is it the right decision for them? This is probably pretty hard for them to think about coming and talking to you about it. What is it about this new thing that's making you interested? And there's like a real listening thing that I hope people that I love and work with know that like I care about them and them getting it right more than I care about us in that moment, And I think that maybe the logic to me is like, it matters. That person's career matters 100% to them. Whatever percentage it matters to me, it ain't 100%. You know what I'm saying? So the right thing is to try and care about their career in that moment. So that's one. The second thing, I think people like winning, and I think that the best thing you can do to create followership is to be somebody who like people believe is going to help them win. And that means I believe that that's like real, that takes multiple things. And you've heard me say this many times, but my leadership philosophy is you need to be demanding and supportive simultaneously. I think most people think of it as like two ends of a spectrum. You can either be really tough or you can be really nice. And I just think that's nonsense. I think that the whole point is you have to be both. You have to have extremely high standards and you have to tell people that you think they can hit them. The reason I have this such a high standard for you is because I believe in you. I believe in you even more than you believe in yourself. And the reason I'm telling you this work product sucks is not because you suck. It's because this is not up to the standard that we've both agreed we need to win, right? And I think you can do it and I want to help you. But the best thing I can do to help you is to tell you the truth. My kids homeschool, okay? And they recently started using this thing called Math Academy, which is an AI math, generated set of problems. I see Carl nodding his head. Maybe you should try it later, see what you think. But what's amazing about it is it just tells me the truth on what they actually know and don't, right? It's hard to know what your kids know in math. But what this does is like, hey, look, there's 22 levels of mastery of this topic. On these 11 topics, your son is excellent and has mastered it. These other 11, he has not mastered it. Here's our plan on how we're going to fix it. Well, now all of a sudden, I know what the standard is. And now I have to go and have a conversation with my son of, okay, cool. We're going to work on these 11, right? And because I love you so much, I'm going to make you do these 11. But it's because I know you can get there. But I think that part of being demanding and supportive is establishing a really high standard and then holding people to it. And then the last thing is, I think you got to try and have some fun. We all spend a lot of time at work. We spend a lot of time with our colleagues. Like, if it's not fun, like, do you really want to do it? The thing that you want to do is work with people you like and make an impact. So I try to make sure that we keep it light too, that we're serious when we're serious and we're having fun otherwise.
Ravi calls that bringing joy. He has a note card on his desk with the words bring joy written on them as a nice reminder for every single day. Ravi, the group in this room needs to build great teams and create great cultures inside of those teams. What's like the single most important characteristic that you hire for, if you could boil it down to one? And what question or line of questioning do you pursue with a candidate to try to tease that out?
I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to add a couple of details. Agency. Agency is the number one thing that I look for when I'm hiring somebody. And I'll define that. But, and the reason for that is I think experience is dramatically overrated. Dramatically overrated. Like I want to capitalize and italicize and bold dramatically. Because it basically presumes that we're like fixed beings who can't learn new things, right? Well, the experience, they got it. And it's like, that's not true, right? We can learn new things. So what I want is someone who wants to learn new things, someone who's excited about learning new things. And then I don't care where they start. I truly do not care. All I want is for them to have high slope. And the way to have high slope is to be like, I'm going to figure it out. The knowledge to believe you can solve your own problems, right? And so to me, people with high agency are usually optimistic too, of like, okay, cool. Oh, that sucks, but we'll figure it out. And this is why I think that when I had a bad day, it didn't last very long. It usually wasn't a bad day. I would really track, like, how long does it take for me to bounce back from like some bad news? Well, hopefully not that long, because I want to get to like, oh, well, here's what I can do about it. Well, have we tried this? What about this? It's so much more fun to be solving a problem than be wallowing in it. And so I want to be around people that have a high agency. And I believe this for my kids too. My kids are 13, and 11. I didn't stutter. There's 2 13-year-olds. They're twins. But like, if I could give them anything, it would not be kindness. It would not be curiosity. It would not be all these incredible things that I deeply hope they have. it would be agency. And for sure, that is what I look for when I try to hire people. And you were so nice to say there's followership. The real thing that happens is there's tremendous luck when you're around great people. It's so wonderful and so lucky to be around great people. And I have found that if you did like the Venn diagram, great people tend to be extremely high agency people. And so I think you have a higher chance of getting that.
Audience Q&A time. Who has a question for Ravi?
This is a question from ChatGPT 5.
I love it.
Now that you have sat on both sides of the table as CFO operator and now as a VC, where do you see the biggest misalignment between how CFOs and VC think about capital allocation, risk, and growth trade-offs? I'll throw in AI too. And how would a great CFO navigate that tension?
But by the way, can we agree? Like that might not be an A+ question, but it's pretty good, right? It's pretty good. And like you like asked it, like it's definitely better than like the median question you might get. You know what I'm saying? Like, great, thank you. I think that there is often a duration mismatch between investors and the people in the company. And what do I mean by that? I think that one of the things I think Ramp does extraordinarily well, okay, just as like an example, is I think that they have great long-term vision, but they pair it with a lot of short-term urgency, okay? And the reason I think that's so important is Ramp, I think, realizes it has to be something super different in the future than it is now. It has to have way more products. It has to be way more AI first. It has to wow each customer in here with what it is. And that level of expectation that the customer is going to have is only going up. And it's going up at the speed of AI, right? By the way, it's true for all of your customers too, for you. But so I believe that they have long-term vision for what it's got to be. But then they have short-term urgency of like, okay, and then we got to ship really fast. I think a lot of times what ends up happening, and I know you asked about capital allocation and AI too, I think a lot of times what will happen in a company is, and by the way, investors are wrong all the time, okay? And you should not just listen to investors. This is what I'm saying, you got to think for yourself. But in my observation, a lot of times a person at a company will be like, what numbers do I need to have in order to raise my Series A or my Series B? And it's like, it doesn't work like that. There is no magic set of numbers that gets you a fundraising round. What you have to demonstrate is that you're on pace to be a giant company somehow. And I think that sometimes people at companies get a little too stuck in the weeds in trying to do that. Now, I think the place that investors screw up is they don't give any helpful suggestions on how to do it. And they flap around like the wind. One day they're worried about growth, another day they're worried about profitability, and they don't keep the main thing of like, at some point you have to build a really great business with really happy customers that continues to get better every day. That is what ultimately you have to build. And now let's work backwards from that of what do we need to do this year? And what is our biggest problem within that? For me, my very strong suspicion is that the vast majority of people don't have happy enough customers. Like if you get to its like core thing, like the real missing ingredient for most businesses is not their growth rate. It's not their profitability. It's that they don't even have something worth building. Do you see what I'm saying? They don't have enough elated customers. Because if you have that, you could probably charge a little more if you have a profitability problem. If you have that, you could probably have them talk to some more of them if you have a growth problem. But you see what I'm saying? So I think the misalignment comes from a duration mismatch as well as a missing the forest for the trees occasionally on the company side. And then on the investor side, flopping around based on what the public markets want in that moment.
So obviously you've had a very long and successful career. Is there something you could point to as like a catalyst for the trajectory of your career or your life, like a experience or a person you've worked with or anything specific that you think really altered the path of your career and put you towards success?
So I think the first thing is like I really don't want to feel like my career is like a finished product. Like I hope there's a lot of room left. And I really, really, really like, there's this great Jim Harbaugh quote of like, if somebody starts to compliment you, kick them in the shins. So I don't want this to be presented like there's like some good stuff that's happened because like, it's just the beginning, like there's a long way to go in any of this. And I've made so many mistakes. With that having been said, I think a couple things that probably mattered. One is seeing excellent people early. There's a great quote from Sheryl Sandberg of like, you cannot be what you cannot see. But like, if you see people early who you're like, man, like, look at how good they are. Look at what they do. So the current co-CEO of KKR is a guy named Scott Nuttall. And I still remember right when I just first joined KKR, I remember him walking up on stage and he was like somewhat like upper mid-level. But I remember him being up on stage and he looked like he was having a good time. He was talking about our strategy. And I just remember being like, oh my God, you can like work at a place like this and still like have a good time while you're like, crushing it. Hugely inspirational for me because it like gave me permission to be myself. Everybody else is so serious. So that was a big deal. Big deal for me. It's not like I all of a sudden like did anything good. It's just like helpful permission. Number 2, having kids. Having kids, everyone's like, oh, when you have kids, you don't work as much. Those people, sorry, I think I got one bullet here, but like those people are full of shit. Okay. It's like, dude, when you have kids, you want to be somebody that they're proud of. And you want to tell them what they need to do. And that means that whenever you have a hard decision, you're like, what would I tell them? And you're like, oh man, I'll tell them to take more risk. I'll tell them to bet on themselves. I would tell them to go try it. It's going to be fine. What's the worst thing that can happen? You can do it. Let's go. If you knock yourself down, you'll pick it up. Let's go. Hugely helpful for me. Hugely helpful. We had kids 13 years ago, as I mentioned, and like only gotten better career-wise since then. Big deal. 3, surround yourself with people that are better than you. Dude, when this dude's chasing you, you gotta get yourself going, right? Because otherwise he beats you. And then you're like, well, that's great. And I'm like, want to be happy for you, but I gotta like stay ahead. So there was one thing, it's very funny. Eric, if Eric's here, he'll remember. Eric and Will and I were doing a meeting early on when Will had started at Ramp. By the way, I introduced Will to Eric and Kareem, so I feel pretty good about that. But we were doing a meeting, and I hadn't prepped enough. Okay. And they presented something early. And then I was like, well, Will, I would think about it like this. And dude, this guy very respectfully was like, effectively, I'd gotten something wrong that I was considering it as like an annual metric and it was a quarterly metric, if I recall correctly. And I was just wrong. And that was bad. Like that was humbling. And I was like, I better have my A game every time I go to this next thing. And I think that, so like being surrounded by people, this is why athletes have to be good because they got to stay on the field. You can't just pontificate, you got to keep getting tested. Big catalyst. And then of course, like be somebody my wife will be proud of. My wife is 10 times smarter than I am. Not even close, 100 times smarter. And like, she can just tell when I'm BSing. Like I need to like do a good job, right? And I want to make her proud. And then, I was very lucky to have parents that like gave me the ability to fail and know that I would be loved and everything would be fine.
Question on impact of AI on jobs, especially now that I work for hedge fund portfolio management or accountants even. Can AI replace those jobs, or how should we prepare ourselves for future?
Let me tell you a brief story. You can see it today, actually. So my wife's a radiologist, okay? And I think that many years ago, Jeffrey Hinton, who's many see as like the godfather of AI, said something to the effect of like, in 5 years, there will no longer be radiologists. And it's like, it was credible, right? I mean, he is an extraordinary AI researcher. Radiology is pretty bullseye for like, okay, it's, understanding images and understanding what patterns exist that are hard to find. It is a bullseye use case for AI. Today, there are more radiology applicants for residency than there's ever been. The median salary is higher than it's ever been, and it's outpaced inflation. And as of now, my wife still has a job and does not seem like she's about to lose it, okay? And what we've realized is that a job is not just a strung together set of tasks. It's more than that, right? There's actual other things that go in other than just reading the image that one time. And I think that's usually what I think happens is people think other people's jobs are easy and their job is hard. And it turns out that actually most jobs are actually quite nuanced and difficult. And so I actually don't tend to believe that like AI is going to replace all these jobs tomorrow. I do think it's going to change jobs a lot. And I think that I very much subscribe to the belief of like, you're not going to get replaced by, not you. One is not going to get replaced by AI, but they are going to get replaced by someone who knows how to use AI. And so I think it's very much, again, to the agency point of like, understand what it can do to help you. Tell your company what it can do to help. And always be somebody who understands what's possible, right? Rather than not. I think there are some jobs that will change and some jobs that will, be eliminated over time. I just think it'll be different and it'll be more that I think there will also be more opportunities in the future than people think. And maybe one more example would be like, when I was a kid, you would have told me there'd be a job called social media influencer, right? And like, I'm 44, so I think I was a kid like maybe like a long time ago, but not like in the dinosaur age. I wouldn't have believed that somebody could do that. And like, so there's new jobs, you know? And so I don't mean to be flippant, but I like choose optimism. And I like actually believe that will happen.
Thank you all for joining. Appreciate the engagement. We hope you learned a lot from Ravi. I learn every time I talk to you, Ravi. And onward to our next session. Thank you all.